Yeah.
Okay, we'll be live streaming in
listen.
a few seconds.
Okay. And I'll shut up. The other thing, Lou, I got like a week ago, like a week and a half ago, I got out to Green Lane using my Canon 200mm lens, and I decided I wanted to image the Spaghetti Nebula. I didn't get a very good photograph of it, but I can verify that it exists.
Yeah, it's kind of bright in Green Lane to get good data on that.
I could see it down there in the red channel, but it does, they're not lying about it. It does exist.
I believe you. I'd like to see that from Cherry Springs or from someplace, from Big Bend National Park. At any rate, I had a lot of emails past couple weeks. People were asking me that they want to get into this hobby. They want to know what gear to buy, what not to buy. So we have a whole bunch of people here that have experience with that. So does anybody have any questions or want to start us off with before you go spend $8,000 on something, and then here, sorry.
Hey, Lou, let's ask John Limegrubber that, because he's the king. He is the king of cheap. He does
Don't buy
amazing results.
anything.
He gets amazing results and spends no money whatsoever. John, you make me feel awful too.
You're wonderful, Doug. I enjoyed hanging out with you at Green Lane not too long ago.
There's that's the way to do it. If you can really, there's only two things you really need to spend money on, and that's mounts and filters. You can cheap out on everything else, but a mount, you do not want to cheap out on a mount. And if you're going to use filters, don't cheap out on filters. But you can use a Canon or an old Nikon or old Canon. You know, you can get one practically for free for $100, $50, and pay maybe another $200 to have it modified to see the full spectrum. But if you put that on a mount that doesn't track, you just wasted your money. So, it's important to buy, the right gear, and where you want to spend your money on is a mount and filters. Everything else, is secondary. Now, if your great Aunt Ethel just died and, you inherited a whole bunch of money, come and see me. I'll help you. But, in the beginning, really, that's what you really need to focus on. Now, as far as computers go, where this hobby is most friendly to x86 Windows machines. That's not to say you can't use an Apple, but more software is written for Windows machines.
Doug loves Windows.
What is it? Are you causing trouble?
I hate and despise Windows, but
I heard about it all night.
Doing a poll, yeah. But if anyone here has not experienced the joy of doing a polar alignment in ECOS, I could never do it.
Well, that's if you want to go to Windows, but that's not to say, Windows is, you could, if you like Linux or, you want to go with ASI Air, they have their own system, but I'm not the guy to talk to about that. I have very little experience with ASI Air, but that's one whole little ecosystem designed specifically to make your life easy or hard, depending on how you look at it.
Easy.
It's been easy.
I mean, it's significantly easier. As a person who's done both, I
Right.
used a computer for years in the field until last January, and or really two Januaries ago now.
Take it
But
from Gary.
major difference. Doug, sorry, before we got cut off, so I looked up the plate solve for my C6 with the Star Arizona 6.3 corrector on it, and it's 1,317 millimeters. That's with the corrector. Now, the Star Arizona website says that they expect for nominal mirror placement, and I'm not sure where they're placing their mirror, but they expect a C6 with their corrector to be more like an F8 rather than a 6.3. And that comes out to 1,220 millimeters. Again, I mentioned it will depend on the mirror position. I tend to have my mirror far back because I switched to a planetary camera and with the same OTA, and I try to minimize how out of focus I am. So it winds up with my extension tubes and all that. If I keep my mirror a little further out, I can be a little more parfocal than if I don't keep it a little further out. And that will increase the focal length. With a C9.25, just to give you apples to apples in terms of what they have on their website, they claim that their 6.3 corrector will be more like a 6.5 in my setup, and that's a 1,525 millimeters. With my setup, my C9.25 is coming in at f6.7 instead of 6.3, and my plate solving comes out to right around 1,580. It's usually between 1,578 and 1,580. So one thing that I found with the SCTs versus like a wider field, like when I use my refractor, with the refractor, there's never an issue with plate solving. I'm anywhere from 480 millimeters to 540, 600 millimeters. There's never an issue. As soon as I switched to an SCT, I did the C6 first. It wouldn't plate solve initially. And part of it was the focal length. The other thing was that the focus became much more critical. If the focus is a little bit off on your main camera, what I found is the plate solver thinks there's too many stars, or not so much too many stars. It just has like I'm looking at Polaris, which isn't a super star rich area. It's not like I'm looking in the center of the Milky Way or something in like Cygnus, and it said there was like 528 stars or something.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So
I did
like
manual
crazy number of
focus.
stars.
Excuse me. Yeah, I did manual focus with a Batinov mask.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was something that seemed to be more critical with a longer focal length.
Mhm.
The other thing was the exposure time. I found that if I went to a slightly longer exposure time, I was shooting around 2 seconds for the
Mhm.
polar alignment and the plate solve. If I went to 3 or sometimes 4 seconds, it was better. It plate solved. And I think part of that might depend on what the transparency is that night.
Mhm.
It seems like if the transparency is low, I need to up the exposure time a little bit to give that sort, or to get rid of or minimize that false number of like 500 stars kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they might be a few things to try, but definitely what Steve mentioned, the focal length, and then
Yeah.
a couple other, the other two things I mentioned might help.
Yeah, I remember Aztec popped up a little window with star numbers on them, and I thought some of them were fishy. Yeah. So thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions about gear? Dan, were you interested in buying?
I'm looking at another OTA.
What kind?
Ascar FR 400. The reviews seem to be really good for, the price point. And I'm just looking at getting something that's a little bit, shorter focal length because I've already got long and medium. I'm using a 6-inch Newtonian and I'm using an 8-inch SCT. So I figure I'll go with the refractor, and it's a 400 millimeter focal length.
You have someplace to
Yeah,
use
yeah,
it
yeah.
around here besides your backyard?
What's that?
You have someplace to use it besides your backyard?
Well, there's always where my mom and dad's house were, or my brother's house up in Schuylkill County,
Mm,
which is not too far from the Blue Knob club site.
So have you been to Green Lane Park?
Yeah.
We're trying to start an initiative there to have them accommodate us a little bit better. They're developing a master plan for the park. And I encourage all of you guys to fill out the survey, go onto their website of what you're looking for. But basically, we want the light, we want them to follow common sense lighting rules, and lights off where they're not needed at night. For example, we used to observe at the amphitheater parking lot. Now, that may not have been the best place, but it was pretty easy to get to. But they put bathrooms in there that have solar power lights, which get locked at sunset, but the lights remain on. Oh, how stupid is that? So Barry Johnson's actually working on a plan with them. Well, he had set up some points that make sense. Hopefully they'll pay attention to Barry, or he'll he might scare them to death. But
Their questionnaire is pretty extensive
it is.
for those. Yeah, I filled it out that night you guys were right before you went to the meeting, and it asks some good questions. They're looking for input, it seems like.
So we have very few places that we can observe from, but
Hey, Lou, did Barry say he was actually doing something for it? Because I haven't heard back from Barry.
did you get the email? They wrote it
Yeah, I thought I was on the email.
and sent something out.
Because I know that
I
they're
thought he
looking-
said he wrote that on his survey.
I don't know. I don't know what he wrote on there. I'll have to
Barry's the guy we need.
Yeah, but I know that they were looking for measurements. So Barry said he didn't have good measurements for Green Lane, but I know that.
No, and we, Gary, and you have a meter. I
Yeah,
have-
the SQM, yeah, the narrow field
Yeah,
one.
Alan Purdy has them.
yeah, we should go around different areas at various times. Now, one place I was going to suggest was the place on Hill Road, that the equestrian area.
Yeah,
They close it at night, but that is ideal because you're away from the traffic. If we can somehow have access to that at night, it is probably darker than the night road area that we observe at.
I think so. I put that on in the questionnaire. I put that as one of the suggestions. I hike from that area. And it's even, when you go up Night Road, you actually take you make the right coming from Green Lane, you make the right-hand turn to get to that equestrian area. And it's actually, that road goes down a little ways. So any cars that are on the road, you wouldn't necessarily see. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, I'm sorry. I also put in the right-hand turn's the one off of Hill Road.
Right,
There's a parking lot up off the top of Hill Road.
on the other side where the boats are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that area is kind of off the road. So if cars were coming uphill road, you
you're
wouldn't
not gonna
see
see
them.
it. Right.
So I put the night road parking area and also the hill road parking
Now,
areas.
I don't know what their
possibilities.
what their budget is or how much they're able to accommodate us. You know, we're putting all these ideas down. I wouldn't mind staying at the parking lot at the Red Trail, as long as they put some kind of baffles or barriers, you know, to the road, you know, I don't know, some kind of vegetation, something to block the headlights. That's the main thing.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was up at Green Lane, I guess it was sometime around the middle of January. And it was one of these warm spells we were having, so I did an overnighter there. Wound up freezing my buns off anyway, but and I had a generator and a heater and all that stuff for my van, but there's too much cold metal. So Gary, I'm gonna have to talk to you about insulating the van. But anyway, I met another club member there. His name was Bill as well.
Hey, that's me. Yeah, Bill,
Oh,
we met there.
yeah. Okay, well, you went to the upper region past the parking area where I was.
Right.
I didn't know you could drive back there. I was trying to, you know, not overstep any boundaries or anything. That's why I stayed down low. Because I thought maybe somebody would have a hissy over me driving my van back up there. But
No,
I just
you know
wanted
what?
to ask, are we really allowed to drive up there?
Yeah, Bill, that's actually where the horse trailers park. So be careful what you step in when you get out of your car. When
Okay.
you park there. What I was going to suggest is have them clear the field directly adjacent to the west of that lot of the equestrian area. Now, you know, there is a lot of land there. You can't go further back because there's the trees and they're trying to develop something back there. But further to the west, it seems like it's just grassland and a prairie. If they could clear that out for us, that might be an option to keep, you know, that way we don't have to worry about stepping on horse manure. Number one, we're slipping on horse manure, even worse. And I don't know how if it would be easier to block the headlight traffic from there.
I think if we can get some measurements, I think that'll go a long way to making the case. Because they're not going to, like I said, when I talked to that Mike McGraw, I think the guy who was leading the conversation, he didn't want to have us as a side project. So like if we have some data, I think that'll really go a long way. Then we can maybe form a coalition with some of the bird groups.
The other thing he was impressed with images. So all of us that have images, submit to them. You know, these guys, they want to see this stuff when they see results. I mean, especially Gary, that great shot you got of Ceres going across what galaxy was that?
M100.
M100, right? That's fantastic. I mean, that's, you know, we're doing real science here. I mean, and that's what they want to see. You know, all these guys, when they conducted the meeting, all as scientists, you know, and this guy is a biologist. This guy is, you know, a geologist. This other guy, you know, they're all on the same page that way. You know, so I think they have a lot of respect for our group, and I don't think they're going to ignore us. We just find, you know, I don't want to be too forceful, but we need to find a way to slide right in and work together with that.
Yeah, I thought I might have some data, Bill. I just checked my phone pictures. Sometimes when I use the SQM, I'll take a picture of it.
Mhm.
Like if I'm imaging or something, just as a record. But I did do some readings that night when we had that little hands-on clinic for people, but I didn't take a picture of it, unfortunately, and I don't recall offhand what it was, but next time I'm up there, I can get some measurements.
Al has the naked eye limiting magnitude is 5.7 to 5.8.
He did it through the star charts? Is that what you're basing it on, or
I
is
think,
that what he was basing it on?
I think
Yeah.
whatever meter he had,
Okay, yeah, because I know he uses the SQM also.
yeah. And he also had a Blue Mountain as 5.9 to 6. So
Okay,
as you know, as you
What's
probably
going on
know,
with-
Frank Coliseum was selling that property in the next couple of months. So he asked Al to get the word out on that. And I don't know how much of that has gotten out, but he's moving, I think, to be closer to his daughter. So he's going to put it with a professional realtor, but he wants to shop it around to a couple amateur astronomers, see if any one of us would
Does
bite
he have
on
a
it.
buyer yet? Because I'm trying.
Okay,
to
Joe, that's for you.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to convince my
Yeah.
wife.
maybe,
you know,
we can chip
I'm a
in.
quarter
We can
acre.
all
And
chip in.
I can't mow that. Let's get 10 acres.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
And the marriage counseling that gets expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
it
You
does.
know,
I've been trying to convince my wife, but that'd be a great investment property. I mean, even for the club, think about this. Look, there, if we have 100 members, think of it, we pay a little bit here, rent or mortgage, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Uh,
could have a consortium.
I mean,
That's, I'm sorry to hear that. I know he was thinking about it. I didn't hear that
Yeah.
he
it's
started to
such-
move
I didn't
forward.
realize
That's-
he was that close.
Yeah, that's going to be a resource that's going to be surely.
That's a sad story. I
It's
feel bad
just
for him and I, I really wish him well, that was, I'll just leave it at that, but,
Yeah, yeah.
but he was very generous in all those years and,
Are you kidding?
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah. How much would that property go for up there? Is that a expensive area?
I don't
well,
think
he
it's that
did
expensive.
mention that he spoke with a realtor. I don't know if that's public knowledge. Give me a number.
I
No,
know the taxes are
yeah, I don't know if I should say, but
the taxes are $7,500 a year.
yeah,
That's that's the same.
yeah,
as
I
what
listed
they-
it on Zillow and their amount for that property. And it's not listed as of now, but the number that they give is wildly off. It's not.
Yeah,
even-
yeah, you can't go with Zillow.
Yeah, it's can't.
But
It's not even
what do
close.
they want? Zillow said 350. I think Frank can get $750,000 for that property.
You're
don't know.
very,
Last-
you're
it said
very
that-
warm.
It said
You're very
last,
warm.
what's that, Joe?
Lou's very warm.
Yeah, it says on realtor.com, the last sale was in 2005
Right.
for 150.
Yeah.
He built it. And then,
That was just the property.
right.
How many acres is
I
that?
I think the
And-
structure he built
Yeah.
afterwards, right?
Well, actually, it's listed as 10. But on the original sale in 2008, it's listed, I believe, as 8. So it's somewhere.
Yeah, this says 10. The realtor.com says 10.
Right. Right.
You know what we could do though? If we buy this property, we can turn it into a farmstead. Just get a couple of chickens, and that way you're.
Or we could pay the number H and, land helicopters,
That way you don't have to pay $7,500 a year. and-
build a hospital, yeah,
That's a
many
shame. Oh,
possi-
well.
so many possibilities.
All right, so I guess we'll find a new fall field trip. Awesome.
Yeah, I know. You have to find a new spot, right?
So
Yeah,
this is why, look,
Unless the new owners, Bill, maybe Frank can put some kind of clause in the sale agreement that we have to allow the DVA. to-
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right.
We have use of that property in the back.
Yeah.
where we can
Yeah,
set
there's
it
some
up.
kind of an easement for DVAA members.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is why it's that important that we get on board with this, the Green Lane project here. I mean, this is actually, the timing is almost perfect, that they're reworking their master plan
Right.
now. Nothing's gonna happen overnight. They're talking, within this, their scope is within what, 24 months, Joe,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. It's not going to proceed in a hurry. And the thing that, I was thinking about this and just my 2 cents, but the things that would appeal to us are not things that are going to really cost them money. We
Right.
need a little bit of security, and we need to access, and we need a couple of switches on their lights. You know what I mean? Like simple things that compared to some of the other different, projects and requests that they have. I mean, ours can be done for small potatoes, and I think if we tell them that they can market this as, I don't know, something like ecotourism, or you know what I mean? It's kind of a feather in their cap, because that's turning into a big thing now. Parks who have this and get this, I mean, they may be able to get more funding from the state or the federal or whatever. And I
Exactly.
think we should play that up a little bit, and I don't know the first thing about all that, but I mean, I think we could be sitting on something there, and it is
Sounds like
close by.
sounds like you do know more than we do about that.
Yeah,
Why
Joe,
don't
what
you write
about,
something up?
yeah, Joe, what about like if we had public star parties there periodically?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's
it could be a win-win for that community, and something on that looks good on their website, and I mean, this is stuff that's in the press every day now. So just my 2 cents,
Yeah, I don't think the park itself is going to go for doing more activities than it needs to do. But Joe, you're completely right. I mean, the lighting and the switches on that and everything that, from a building standpoint, I don't think
Right.
they have any buildings they're proposing. Maybe, and you look at their other projects, they're going to have new docks, so new drop points for boaters. Trail redesign is going to cost a lot.
right.
Right.
So, and they want to meadow a lot of the area. And that's, I think, the part that we might have conflict as park users, is trying to find a spot that we can use that isn't going to be meadow. Because I feel like we would probably be using an area that they want to meadow.
Right. Right.
Well, if they would meadow an area specifically for us, that would be great. Like on top of Hill Road, where they can get rid of those 1 or 2 straggling trees at the equestrian area, then we would have, a sky similar to the Red Trail parking area. That horizon is awesome. The Red Trail parking area. It's better than the amphitheater. The killer is the occasional headlights, or the kids that come in and screw around in the parking lot, which
Is that Night Road you're talking about?
that's a night road. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you there that day that I think you guys might have come
Yeah, we
over
were there.
when those 2 kids got their car stuck and when they were trying to do like burnouts in the parking lot, and they got all stuck in their ruts, and it was hilarious trying to watch them push it out, like,
Yeah, but in the meantime,
Serves them right. Not that we weren't kids
yeah, not like we ever did that.
time ago.
right.
Yeah, we would never do something like that.
No, but we're trying to do astronomy, and we're getting interrupted with this nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one thing I wanted to mention to the group, that based on that email that Al Lamperti put out about the Astronomical League Galaxy Challenge. Are people interested in that? I have a couple slides that I put together to just,
Go ahead,
and there was a
Gary.
gentleman who, let me see. I need to do,
Yeah, John sent the
I
email
think-
out with some nice
I think
pictures
John
there, John.
Limegrove has already
have to-
done the
so
entire
John,
Galaxy
you
Challenge.
did 6
You
of them,
only need
was it?
10, right?
He
You need
takes
10 to
like
get it.
7?
I did 7 out of
Yeah.
10.
His
Yeah.
his
So
technique
7,
is
yeah.
to like take 10,000 exposures of, of like 5
20,000
milliseconds.
exposures.
I tell you, I was amazed by when I read your stats in that email last night. I thought that's amazing because
The
that's why I
decimal
said
points
if
off.
you wouldn't mind sharing your sharing what you've done with the group. I can start it out with just a little background on the challenge itself, and then if you want to show what you've done.
Now, one thing that John has done, I mean, besides his remarkable ways of kind of cheating the system and making it work,
I'm
is
cheating.
John's went to a site that is closer for me than Green Lane by quite a bit. It's actually a hair darker. It's in Arwena. It's at an airport that's a daytime airport. It's for gliders and for biplanes. And it's called Van Sant. Now, I went there to see like Comet Neowise, and I go there for meteor showers and stuff because the horizons are 0. I mean, you can see down to about 1 degree.
Oh, excuse me, Tom. What's this place called again? What's it
It's
called?
Van Sant Airport.
Van Sant?
Yeah, Van Sant, VAN, then SANT. It's in Arwena, and it is dark. I mean, when I was there for Neowise in June, it was early in the morning, but when I got there, the Milky Way was very obvious. I mean, really obvious. And I think it's a borderline 4 or 5 type of thing. It's a nice, and it's about a half an hour from my house. Without in the middle of the night, if I'm coming home, I got to wake up in the middle of the night. It's about 25 minutes. You know, you got to watch the end few miles because it's all wooded. You got to watch for deer and stuff like that.
There's a
Because I've
covered
seen a lot of
bridge.
deer across there. Yeah, and there's some covered bridges and stuff. But
So this is up near. It looks like it's near Ottsville, past Ottsville.
yes, it's very close to Ottsville. It's not that far from Knock-a-Mixon, but it's much
Yeah.
better than Knock-a-Mixon. It's up high. Knock-a-Mixon's down low. Knock-a-Mixon is far enough over where I used to go there sometimes, but it's really gotten the sky has deteriorated Knock-a-Mixon a bit. This is actually quite a bit better,
Mhm.
and it's higher, so it's not as dewy or anything like that. Now the kicker is, every time I've done it kind of clandestinely, where I just go there. I try to be quiet. I pull windows. The building, the hangar, and stuff like that is down a road that's I don't know, it's about a quarter mile long road, I guess. But I just pull in a couple hundred feet, just parallel park on the side, bring my scope up to the field. And cops stopped me once. They came in there, asked what I was doing, because evidently a few nights earlier, some young kids were there driving around their cars and they're doing wheelies in the airport field. And that's a big problem. But he came in, saw the telescope, took a view of some deep sky object, said thanks a lot, and took off. You know, it was good. So, but there's a sign. The website looks like 2 people kind of own it or have taken over. I'm not sure they've taken over like there's a little store where you can get crackers and stuff and sign up for these rides, glider rides or glider lessons and stuff. But they assigned out at the entrance says it's part of the Bucks County Park System. So I haven't asked officially because they told me no. Then I'd be trespassing if I go there and they stop me. I'll go, hey, I'll just plead ignorance and go, hey, I will plead forgiveness versus, ask for permission. Although John's taken a much more direct approach, and he's been trying to get it, but I think he hasn't had any success yet. But now, are you up high now, John, when you're doing this? Because that's where those last images came from on Easter. He's up in Van Sant.
Yeah, the batch I just did was right on the airport. And as far as asking permission, I called and left a message on their answering machine, and I gave them my name and phone number and said, I have a telescope. You got a lovely place. I'd love to come out here. And then I didn't hear anything back. And I also...
it's like during meteor showers or Comet Neowise. Well, Neowise in the morning sky, I was by myself most of the time. One other time, there's 1 or 2 other people there who were doing photography. But at nighttime, when I went to the nighttime sky in June, there was probably 25 people out there. There's half a dozen cars. People had lawn chairs out with binoculars, and everybody's looking. And nobody says boo about it. For the Landon meteor shower, there had to be 500 people there screaming and yelling and oohing and ahhing during that meteor storm, back 20 years ago, where it was just unbelievable. And so I mean, it does happen when there's a special event. People go up there because they know it's good horizons and it's dark sky, and people go there to watch like a Perseid meteor shower. People will bring blankets and spread out. So it's at least tolerated, but I don't know. But it's most of the clubs seem centered around more more deeper into Montgomery County and further south and stuff. And this is kind of in the up by Nockamixon way, so it's but it's it's like central northern Bucks, right there on the river practically. But it's got dark skies and unbelievable horizons, of course, because it's an
It's
airport.
good to have options, though. I mean, because especially with Frank's place going.
Yeah,
possibly
well, that's
going-
why I figured I'd mention it, because John was just there because he heard me. He saw one of my pictures, I guess, and we talked about
Yeah,
that
I'm
photography
copying
thing. He
you,
said it was a
Tom.
damn sand. He goes out there and he's just wandering off. He's out there now. But
That's good. Yeah, I didn't realize where that was when you put that in your email, John.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
left it kind of ambiguous. So
Yeah, that's cool.
because it's still kind of semi-clandestine. It isn't sanctioned yet, but it's an interesting
Yeah.
place.
And the app I use says Bortle 5.0.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't measure, but
I was looking at a like a LPM light pollution map thing, and it borders 4. It's very close to 4. It's good. I mean, in comparison to my backyard, which is 7, almost 8, it's unbelievable. I mean, Hebner Park from my house is a very dark site in comparison. If I go out to Rowena, it's pretty good. I actually have never tried to do deep sky imaging like I've been fooling around lately with this EAA stuff and all, except in my backyard. I don't know what the difference in the signal to noise ratio, the advantage I'll pick up if I knock a few Bortle numbers down. I imagine it's going to be a good thing. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because in case people are thinking about a dark site, and we sort of have John's blessing.
I thought it was your idea.
Not really. No, but John has asked. They haven't responded. So until they respond, I think it's fair game. But to answer Gary's question, yeah, I'm working on that list too. I did it Sunday night. I was getting up earlier on Monday, so I did 3 or 4 on Monday night, and I did another. I have 7 now, the 10, but I got sidetracked and I was doing like M51 and then late at night on Monday I was doing like it's gotten later. It was almost 2 in the morning. I got M3 and M53. I was doing other things, just kind of having fun because they were so high in the sky. They're in the darker part of the sky, so. I did the sunflower, things like that, 63. But yeah, but I plan on, I have the 10 marked on that list that John held up. And so I can check them off as I go, but I'm thinking tomorrow night should be good.
Yeah, even tonight. Tonight, looks like it's going to be clear. Can you guys see the screen?
We can.
Yes.
And what are you saying? The full slide, like the full screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because PowerPoint it's showing me like the the speakers thing with the next slide. So I just want to make sure I thought I was sharing the right one. So the thing we're talking about here is the email that Al Lamperti put out about this Astronomical League Special Observing Challenge. And apparently they do different ones. I think this is maybe number 8 of the list when I looked at their website. So this is the link here. If you just Google, Astronomical League Observing Challenge, you'll probably get to this URL. But basically, it starts now, and the submission deadline is July 15th. So there's plenty of time, and the targets are all relatively small galaxies. So I was actually doing them with my 9 1/4 with one of those small ASI 533 cameras. It's like 3,000 by 3,000 pixels. I have that paired to that OTA because if I'm doing close-up stuff, I don't need as wide a field of view as I do like if I'm doing using like my ASI 2600 with my refractor. So you can either sketch or image 10 of the 20 objects on the list. Out of the 20, when I looked at their positions, I think all but 3 of them were were fairly high up. There were three that were really like, especially with me having trees, they were way down below my.
Yeah, the first couple are just in the trees for me,
Yeah,
but most of them
first
are
two-
well positioned.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then one later on was way down there.
Yeah.
But that still gives you 17, 16 or
Yeah.
17 objects. You need to get 10 out of those. And then the other thing is to do an outreach activity related to galaxies. So this would be a
That's
good
actually
way-
harder. That's actually the hard part.
It is, but if you go to the star party, if somebody
Yeah.
were to bring a scope or something, or even bring what they've done to Valley Forge Star Party, it would be a way to support the club with the star party and also meet the requirements of this. Then you submit them and to the program person. That's on that website. The link here. And then don't be late, or else they're going to throw it back at you. So this is the list of the first 10. And as I mentioned, I think the first two, when I looked it up, were pretty low.
Yeah.
Where's my hard copy list is
Same.
over there. So I have it marked on there. There are a number of them in Leo, which is way
Well
up there and well positioned. And then the next 10.
Except on the meridian flips, you get meridian flips with the
Yeah. But you can time it. I mean, fortunately,
Yeah,
with
I know
these,
that's what you got to do. You time it before or after. Enough time.
yeah, and you could even, you could do relatively short exposure. I was doing about an hour per object, but you can easily do 15 or 30 minutes.
I'm doing 30s.
I
Right.
did 3 minutes.
I'm going to do them all 30s. That's how I
30, yeah.
decided.
So you can crank through them. And then this is the last half, the second half of the list. And just to show you where they are. So I actually went through the trouble recently of doing a panorama of my property, because I got tired of stuff going in trees when I didn't expect, or not so much expected to, but didn't know when it was going to happen. So in Stellarium, it's pretty straightforward to take use your phone in panoramic mode. I stuck it on the top of a tripod and just spun it around, and then you can if you put the horizon right around the middle of the frame, it winds up projecting, and you use east as the 0 point, it winds up projecting a 3D image of your property. So I shot this in the winter, and then I made it 75% transparent so I could see the constellations kind of coming or going where they come into the trees.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it works out great. I mean, this has been a lifesaver for me, because I had so many times where I would start an exposure and then a tree half an hour into it is in the way. And it's sort of like, well, I wouldn't have started there.
Yeah, really.
So anyway, so this is NGC 2683. You can see in the mark, I don't know if you can see my cursor there.
Yep.
But you can see that little square there. That's where that is. And this is a close-up of that UFO galaxy. This is in Lynx, this particular galaxy.
Yep.
And then this is the actual picture. This is about 1 hour. What is it? 64 minutes worth of data. And then this shows it annotated. I always love the little, freebie galaxies that you get in these shots when you're in this part of the sky. This is another one. This is NGC 2903. So this is like number 5 or so on the list, I think. So you can see very well positioned, especially relative to my trees, which are fairly high. And then this is the stellarium of the object. And then this is the actual 1 hour worth of data. This is exactly 60 minutes. I'm doing 2-minute subs. So this is 32-minute subs. And this is with that, Doug, this is with that C9.25 it's really a 0.063, but it winds up being more like a 6.7 for 1578. And with that ASI 533 camera. And then that's annotated. And then
your version better than the Stellarium version, Gary.
What's that?
I like your version better than the Stellarium version.
Oh, thanks.
And
this is M95, and this is like 95's in there, 96, 105. So with 105, you can get this little, Leo.
You get that whole group.
thing.
Yeah, I got that the other day. It's
Yeah.
M105 is pretty boring by itself, but it's an interesting triple bright ones and a couple small guys in the background. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So this one I think is actually 105 that I have. Yeah. So this is the
Yeah.
stellarium image, and then this is actually about 80 minutes. I let it run longer because I was putting some stuff away, and I just kept adding 5 more 2-minute subs a couple times by the time I got outside to pack things up for the night. This little galaxy here is quite cool. This
He's one of the more interesting parts of that.
yeah, that I thought was really kind of neat.
Yeah.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, so the nice thing with this is that even though you can sketch or image them, with imaging you wind up seeing a lot more, obviously. So it winds up being a decent way
Yes.
to observe them.
Some of the descriptions can be a little misleading. Like if you read 105 in the Astronomical League write-up, it says M105 is the biggest or one of the biggest elliptical galaxies in the Como Virgo group. Well, that's true, but it's also probably the second smallest Messier object. I think it's only smaller than 57.
Yeah.
It's only a couple minutes of arc across. It's a tiny thing.
Yeah, and this is it here. This is 105.
Yeah, right.
This core's blown out somewhat, obviously, because I was actually curious to see what was going on with this guy down here, this 3389. So I wound up over processing this a little bit just because I was more interested in the object that wasn't on the list. But anyway, that's all I have for that. So just if they're easy to do, galaxies from a processing standpoint, galaxies are fairly straightforward, especially these small faint ones. It's not like you're trying to do Andromeda for hours and get all the star birth regions and all that. So I thought it would be good to promote this and also promote the support of the Star Party in terms of the public outreach stuff. I think that's it. So you're sharing, stop share. Okay, cool.
Well done, Gary.
Yeah, that's great.
Great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So John, I thought your stuff was really cool when you put that up there. And I was curious to know more about what you did for, with your 500 millisecond.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind going through some of that, I know I'm curious to hear it. I'm sure others are too.
Sure. And while I agree with Lou, the best place to put your money is probably a good mount. I didn't want to do that yet. So I was trying to figure out how much I can get away with before spending that money. And at some point I had heard about the rule of 500, which is more for wide field, like DSLR cameras. And then I realized at some point that a telescope is just a very large prime lens. And I decided to do the math. And I was like, well, if you just take millisecond length subs, then the stars don't blur too much. So, and the main reasons I've heard against doing that are that if you stack your subs later, if your subs are say 50 megabytes a piece, you're going to fill your hard drive up real fast, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And but with SharpCap, the live capture feature, in a fast enough laptop, it's actually doing the stacking. So it never saves those intermediate subs. So if you mess up, you're out of luck. That's the bad thing. So I started off just kind of playing with it. And I was like, well, I'll try half a second. And I began to be able to get a little bit of stuff. And then I started realizing, well, the stuff up by Polaris moves slower. So I can give those longer exposures. I still get a little bit of star bloat. They're not nearly as good looking as your photographs by any means, but it's more than I can see visually. So I'm able to get a lot of value out of my little, Orion XT 8-inch Dob with no tracking or anything. Yeah, Doug saw me. Doug had all his stuff set up and going, and then I'm over there. Yeah. I liken the experience. It's kind of like when you watch a person in a deli cutting meat, where they're like doing this.
There you go. Yeah.
That's honestly my experience with this, because you only get about 30 seconds to a minute per exposure, and the object is, sliding across the screen. And at which point I hit pause and I go over and bump the Dob. And the reason I only got 3 minutes exposure on the UFO galaxy is I got too excited and bumped it somewhere and I couldn't find it again. So I was like, 3 minutes is enough. Let's go to the next one. But this most recent time, I've done it enough. And I forget which object. It was up in Ursa Major.
109 maybe?
Actually, C7.
No,
Caldwell 7. That's not in Ursa Major. That's in the Camelodopterus. I cannot say that. Both that one and also maybe the one you said, they're pretty high up. And so I was able to, normally I use binning because Gary shoots really high resolution, like half a degree, half an arc second per pixel, which is pretty high resolution. And if I'm shooting at that high resolution, you'll really start noticing the star blue because it's moving. So I'm using binning to help with some of that, just 2x2 binning. But yeah.
And you got quite a focal reducer on that, it sounds like. Basically, you're down to a 3.5?
Yeah, and I have a single speed focuser. So it's this time what I did is I started out, I looked at Polaris and I started a live capture, and I have some screenshots, but not here. The SharpCap will calculate dynamically your full width half maximum, FHWM, at the bottom of the screen. And so I pointed up at Polaris, and then I'll just tap the focuser and wait for the shaking to stop, and then see where what my values are. And I'll twist it a little the other way until the numbers are good. So I don't really look at the screen to do my focus. I'm looking at the numbers until it gets as low as I can get for the evening's seeing, at which point I call it focused. And yeah, you're right, Tom. It's a real cheap GSO 0.5 focal reducer. It's a 2-inch. I'll show you my imaging train.
Yeah, with your camera and your binning and your focal length, our setups are almost identical because I'm using just a planetary camera that has a 5.8 micropixel size, but you're binning, yours is like half the size, but binning it, and I'm at 800 millimeters, you're at 700 millimeters, so we're almost identical. I was looking at your images, the image scale is virtually the same as my 8-inch f4.
Yeah, I'm curious, is your f4 Newtonian, is that an astrograph by design, or are you focal resistant?
No, I made it a long time ago.
I wanted to ask you how the heck you put these giant tubes on the end of how do you, on a tripod? It's impressive.
Well, I have it now on a very upscale mount right now. It's an Ioptron mount I have it on, and I do the plate sob and all that. I mean, the remarkable thing with your image, and one more thing is pretty interesting, I think, is not just the fact that once you have them, you're bumping along, but even finding them, because field of view in that camera is small, especially if you're binning. I mean, you got a small field, you got a small image there. You're kind of just doing an eyeball of where it's going to be, and then you start taking images and see if you see anything, and then bump it. And
yeah, I went. You're totally
pretty challenging.
Right. Caldwell 7, I went over it twice, and I didn't think it was there. And it's a reasonably bright object. What is it? They say 8.9, which sounds great, but it's a large object, and that's something I've really struggled with, is like surface brightness.
Yeah,
it's a totally different ball game than the
it
magnitude.
It is.
Like,
yeah.
Doug did a great job shooting. What is it? NGC 2244.
I got the Rosette.
Rosette.
That night was the Rosette Nebula.
Yep, exactly.
Without guiding, but 2-minute exposures.
Right, and the first time I tried to get that, I had like no color.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize that like you really need longer exposures to get that.
It's big but invisible.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's definitely limitations to what I'm doing. It works pretty good for brighter objects, but
do you have your images, John, that you could share?
Yeah, I'm happy to. If I can do a screen share, let me see if I can.
Yeah. Because I think it'd be interesting, to show that. I was blown away when your email came in last night. I thought that was really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
I had
so
seen some of John's prior images, so I know what he's capable of. He took some down in Philly that were just unbelievable, you know. So I knew if he went somewhere dark.
yeah, the dark helps.
Yeah.
So this one is a C7. Oops, hold on. I'm in Linux, I'm weird. This was one I actually did not use binning because it was up so high. And it was relaxing because I could actually sit back for about 60 seconds before I had to pause and do it again, cut the meat. And so I got 14 minutes on this one. And
Which one is this, John? Colwell 7?
yeah, C7.
Yeah, that's NGC 2403.
Yep,
Right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
And I started copying what Gary does, these numbers at the bottom. I use Image Magic. It's a real cheap Linux program to like put this little caption, the frames around it.
Oh,
I'd love to know how you guys put those frames on there. I don't know.
I use Photoshop. I made a template. I'd be happy to share it. I use
Okay.
Photoshop, and I have basically the frame, and then I have a transparent background. So I just put the image on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
like at the lowest layer, and then all the other stuff, like the
Yep.
little directional arrows. Every time I come up with a new one, I rotate the little north and east,
That makes
and
sense.
I just have that as a layer that I selectively turn off or on.
Okay, yeah, I'd be curious about that. This,
Yeah, I can put it up in the documents folder or the forum. You know, it's a template. I have one for kind of like square images, like on that 533 camera, or if I'm doing planetary stuff, where it's a square image, and then I have one that's more of the longer, you know, the wide format like this.
right. Okay, that makes sense. And what I do is I shoot everything, and I didn't even know what the heck my focal length was, to be honest. I was really happy that I even got it to focus because there's not enough back focus. You have to get in too close. And so the reason I chose this focal length is I didn't choose it. It's just the one that happened to be able to focus with the little spacer that I bought. So it's just randomly f3.5. And I
Well, it
figured
gives you a
that out.
fast setup, you know?
Yeah, it's fast.
It
E5.
is fast, yeah.
And so, yeah, this was just 3 minutes here. Whoops, wrong button.
Elon Musk's
This
supply.
one was NGC 2841. And I wasn't able to get a lot of the color correction to work right. So I noticed my images don't have much color. My impression is you need longer exposures to like actually see much color. But NGC 2903 in Leo. This one was hard to pull. I put 10 minutes on it, but didn't see a lot.
Yeah, this one's really, was surprisingly faint. I haven't processed, I imaged this the other night, but I haven't processed it yet. But on the subs, you know, you could see that central bar,
Yeah.
hard spiral. And I could see that there was something out there. But I think this is impressive that you were able to get that with, what was the total exposure time on this, John?
10 minutes.
10,
F7.
that's impressive.
Very impressive with a Dob there, but
And the reason I'm using 256 gain, it's that's what I call unity gain for this camera. The planetary cameras, I heard Gary talking about this. I finally understood it, but there's like a certain, once you get to a certain number, it goes into HGF mode or high gain. Essentially, the noise drops off a lot. There's a discontinuity in the graph. So that happens at 252 on my camera. And I happen to like powers of 2. And so I chose 256, which is just enough to like go into that low noise mode.
Okay.
And that gives me the highest dynamic range that I
Right,
can get. But you can see on this image, there's actually, even at 500 milliseconds, I'm getting star bloat. You can kind of see these stars are going
Still,
by.
it's really unbelievable. You know, great image.
This one is fun. The Dwarf Bard. It reminds
This is
me
more
of-
interesting than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if this was on, I have this as a questionable to try, but this is more interesting than I
Yeah. If you
expected. It's
put-
got some neat structure.
Yeah, there's got these little like spine going down it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it reminds me a lot of M1, the Crab Nebula. Kind of reminds me of this a little bit.
It does, yeah, if you think about it.
Yeah.
At least the
This is
image I took.
4214, okay.
I'd love to see, yeah, deeper exposure on that. And this one, I processed the heck out of it. That's what I do is I take really bad data and I process the heck out of it because I'm a computer geek. So I use StarNet to split this, and then I cheated and I like drew a circle around it and flattened out the background and pasted it back over. So if you're curious, I can show how to use StarNet and Serial. I figured it out for Joe.
I just started looking at that, John. I watched a YouTube video, and the two I saw says that, I mean, you basically when you say star and you go to that go to the StarNet one, when you call it up, they have there's a series of radio buttons, and they do it all at one time, and you have you got both pairs of background and stars.
Yep.
And but I'm not sure. I haven't
give you the
had
real
any.
quick spiel.
Yeah, well, that'd be good because
Yeah.
I haven't had great success with that. I've only tried it for like half an hour, but it didn't seem to make a huge difference. So I was curious.
The first step is you got to see if you have Windows, Mac, or Linux, whatever you're using. You can download this starnetastro.com. You can Google it.
The command line version, right?
You download the
command
command
line
line version.
Yeah.
Correct. This is
Right.
weird.
But Serial is really nice. I really like Serial. I just started looking at that about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I've been using that.
The background extraction is really nice.
Yeah,
Oh, God, I use that on
extraction's
all of
great
them.
on that.
That helps me a lot. So you can run it manually, which I do. You can just type StarNet. I'm a computer geek, so I like write bash scripts and stuff. But anyway, I figured out how you do it. You go into Serial. So you downloaded the command line version. You install it however you want. You run Serial however you want. It runs on all the computers. Whoops, go away, little thing. There's 3 buttons here. You hit Preferences. I don't know if you guys can see this real well, but you go down to Miscellaneous, and it has a little thing, Software Location, and you point it to a StarNet executable. So you just click that, and then wherever you install the StarNet, you just go click on it and hit Open, and then you're done. It's all set up. All you do is go up, open your image, hit Image Processing, has a whole star processing, StarNet Removal. You hit that, it gives you some options, but don't use any of them. Execute. And then you watch your computer.
You combine them in Pixel Math.
I don't know what Pixel Math is.
That's in PixInsight. Pixel Math allows you to do operations on.
Yeah, but there's one like that in here.
Oh,
And
there's
I've seen
Pixel Math
videos where they're combining both in that.
So it's done. What it did is it spit out 2 files, Starless and Star Mask. So I'll open up Starless, which is this. And then I'll open up Star Mask, which is this. So I just did it live right there. And then when you're done, so for example, what I'll do is let's go to this Starless one. And also from Gary, I learned about the generalized hyperbolic stretch. So I just go in here, pick some numbers, add a little stretch. I'm like, let's pick here. There you go. And you just kind of play with it till it's not too bad. I'll do some other stuff. And it's cool. Like you said, you get the freebies. There's one at the top here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I like that. I'll hit apply. And then when you're done, it did not stretch my stars, so it won't blow your stars up. I remember we talked with Steve about when you have a really bright star, it can be challenging sometimes to get your stretch without blowing your stars. So then once you do it, you go back, image processing, the same thing, star processing, and then you say recomposition, and you get to pick 2. So you pick the starless for that one, and then you pick the stars for this one, and you get one last chance. You can do one last stretch. You can go, you can get crazy, but I might do that. Or you can stretch your stars. So right here, so this is kind of like the Pixel Math thing, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then you just hit close. There you go. Don't forget to save it. I do a little different step where I actually subtract it out myself, or I'll go in and edit. I'll edit this starless one. And because part of the side effects of what I'm doing is since the frame drifts about 200 pixels or so before I hit pause and come back, the edges of my images are all wonky or black. So you can see lines, like there's a line up here. That's actually from it rotating, because I don't have any guiding or
Oh
any
yeah, it's
rotation.
knob. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'll go in
Yeah.
and use Photoshop and just like circle this and then delete the background. So it gets rid of those wonky lines. And then I usually have to crop it too. But yeah, otherwise,
Cool.
like my lights, that's what my lights look like. Nothing there.
That's
And then
great.
I just start with that and do all the steps. So.
That's great.
John, I want to tell you, your cheapness and creativity in cheating, it is an inspiration.
Is that Doug? I think it's Doug.
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right?
Right.
Man.
And this is a picture of, I did a screen cap of, I started off doing brighter things that I could actually find in my finder scope. And it's a little, this down at the bottom, if you haven't used SharpCap, this is my tracking error. So I have a ton of tracking error because I ain't got no tracking.
You got no drive, you got no nothing.
Nothing. So I sometimes lay down like 20 different lines, and whenever I'm lining it up, I try to get it as close as possible so I'm not cutting the edges of my images off. But I can't do anything about the rotation. So
That's great. That's really cool.
yeah, so that's the
No,
poor man's
no,
astrograph.
seriously, John, there's a lot of features of SharpCap that I know nothing about because I went out and bought stuff. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I,
didn't
I
learn
still am
about this.
learning new things on SharpCap. I'm always finding new things, you know? It's
Definitely.
I've used it for a couple of years now, and I just found a couple of new things last night, you know, or the night before.
There's
So-
so much more. Doug was trying to show me how to do, and what were we just talking about? Plate solving. But I realized if I do plate solving, it'll just spit a number out that means nothing to me.
Don't, yes, yeah.
Like,
You're doing fine. No.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
no,
not sure how
John,
you're
you're a
doing it.
nat-
I'm not sure
don't
how
do
you're
plate
finding
solving,
them,
John.
but you're finding them, so it's working.
John, you're a natural, okay? It would just wreck it for you.
no, I'm a computer geek. I've been doing Linux since I was a teenager. So
I think
Right.
that 42.
John, and
Gee,
what's sad
that
to say,
galaxy.
John, I've been doing Linux since you were a teenager.
You're sweet. You're sweet.
I might try to do that tonight, John, that 4214. The one
Yeah.
you showed, that one that had the that dwarf bard.
Yeah, the dwarf it's weird looking, and it's confusing because it's also 4228. So I couldn't find it under 4214 in Stellarium. It's under 4228.
Okay. Oh, that's actually one I couldn't find too. So that's
Yeah,
4228 came up.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I did a screen capture of that.
That messed me up. Just like
I'm
Messier
glad you
40.
mentioned that.
Yeah,
I couldn't find Messier 40 for a while. And then I realized it's a joke, but I looked at it anyway. So
Well, it's a double star, isn't there, or something? I don't
it
know.
is. It's a
Yeah.
double star that has it's just they're not even close to each other.
Yeah,
There's a
no, it's,
recent paper.
it's two stars in the field of view. is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It is a joke.
But it's one of my favorites though. I like
You go back
mistakes.
to it over and over.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but it definitely, I got lost a lot and I'm really scared of going into Virgo because it's pretty dark. Unless I can see something with my naked eye, it's hard to, I have a 9x50 racy spotter and I use that to kind of find everything. But if there's nothing to see, it's hard.
In Virgo, you're bound to hit something.
Virgo. Yeah.
That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Is it
Just
the
point
right
in
thing,
general
though?
direction, you'll catch something. It's
I don't know if it's the right galaxy.
Yeah,
You can
that's
take a
find out
bunch
what
of
it is later, you know?
You can take a bunch of images, John, and then when you're done, go back online and do an
Yeah.
online play solve and
Yeah,
find
I
out.
played
Trying to
solve
figure
them
out what it
all
was.
galaxies.
Right.
It'll
I
tell you
throw it
which
out.
ones you got.
Virgo is one of those areas, like watch what you wish for because it might come true. I was up at Cherry Springs one night and it was incredibly transparent this one night. And it were just galaxies everywhere to the point where I got totally confused. I was doing the Messier list, so I was star hopping, and I kept getting confused because there were just way too many galaxies. And I thought, man, I wish it was a little less transparent, which is not something I normally would wish for. The next night, the transparency sucked, and I couldn't find anything. So I was really wishing like for the previous night. So watch what you wish for; it might come true. Either way, I like both nights I lost on that trip.
The human
no.
condition.
I know exactly.
Love it.
Anyway, thank you, John. That was really
Yeah. Thanks so much,
Excellent.
guys.
Excellent.
No, I mean, I'm definitely eyeing those $2,000 harmonic drive mounts and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but
I actually bought one of those AM5s recently because I wanted it. I'm getting kind of I'm not sure how to put it, stingy with time, where I think the older I get, the more I realize how little time I have left. And I thought, rather than moving OTAs back and forth and all this stuff and figuring out where focus is again and getting everything lined up, I wound up getting one of those ZWA AM5 harmonic drive mounts
yeah, I'm looking at that one.
for my refractor, even though it'll handle the C9 1/4. And I tell you, I'm very blown away by it. It's an impressive mount. That's what I used, Tom, when we did the Abington party.
Yeah, the Abington. Yeah, I remember. That's a nice mount.
Things quiet. You can pick it up. I can pick up the whole rig with like pretty easy. In fact, I could pick it up with one hand. I could pick up the mount, the tripod, and the OTA and the camera with one hand. If you kind of grab it right where it's not going to tip over. It's easily with two hands. I can move it around, just pick it up and move it where I want it.
No counterweights, right?
No, not up to 29 pounds.
Wow.
So I'm running it without a counterweight for that small one. With the C9 1/4, you can put up to an 11-pound counterweight. So I had an old Celestron CG5 mount that I haven't used in a while. So I grabbed the 11-pound counterweight from that. It's the same shaft diameter that comes with the counterweight shaft they give you with that AM5 mount.
So Gary, what was the name of that mount again?
It's ZWO makes it, like the camera people, and it's called the AM5 Alpha Mary 5.
Is that like square looking one?
Is it what?
Like two red boxes.
Yeah, it's a box. Yeah, it's a box head.
Yeah. It's like two red boxes, and it's there's no clutches on it. It's just direct drive. It just has two powerful motors, so make sure your cables don't get snagged.
I mean, I took
First-
a quick look at it, and I thought it was a lightweight, but it's not lightweight. You're saying?
It can handle up to around 40 pounds.
Well, that's not lightweight.
No,
Yeah.
and the mount weighs 11 pounds, I think it is. So it's really light.
With my physical issues, I'm all about lightness.
Yeah. It's quiet, it's accurate. I'm getting tracking around 3/4 of a arc second RMS.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
Is that tracking
incredibly
on it?
accurate tracking.
Is that without guiding or?
No, that's with guiding. That's with
I'm
guiding.
trying to do the next baby step and
Well, without guiding, they give you a plot. They give you the periodic error plot, which I forget how long it is. It's 400 and something seconds, maybe, or something like that. But oh no, it would be longer than that. And anyway, it's plus or minus 10 arc seconds maximum excursion. The spec for it is 20 plus or minus 20.
okay.
The one I got, they give you a plot for each mount. They're individually tested.
wow.
The one I have is about minus 11 plus 10, something like that, or plus 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've heard that they've been coming in under spec. Some other people, have put on blogs, hey, I got a good one, blah, 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 kind of thing. But it seems like a lot of people are getting good ones. It's
How
something
long
to
have it-
consider. They're not cheap, unfortunately, but for a harmonic drive, they're actually pretty reasonably priced.
Right. The
I've
real
read a few of
advantage
the
seems
reviews.
like
They're very good. The reviews are great. Overall. for them.
Yeah.
Can you put your 11 on there without counterweights, Joe?
I think it would be, no, I don't think so.
You can do it. I've seen it with a counterweight, but you would have to have it, like I have Los Mandy rails on my 11 and stuff, and
Right.
they're heavy unto itself. If you took
Mm.
that stuff off, you could probably just put just the OTA, but it would.
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
actually have
close.
done that. And in fact, I even take the finder off because with the ASI Air, I mean, I honestly don't even need much of a finder, you know,
Yeah.
I put a little, 0 power
Like a
red
little
dot,
red dot.
on there.
Mm.
And it does everything I want, you know, I mean, it does meridian flips. It's just crazy good. So I don't need a lot of the peripherals, you know, and because I've got that ASI Air, I don't need a lot of the cabling either, you know.
Right.
Boy, I'll tell you, what an amazing thing, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have just a red dot now. I mean, I still have the finder because it's on the same bracket. I can't remember the last time I've taken my lens caps off of my finder.
Right,
I
Right.
kind
I
of
don't even
like
put
if I'm setting up like Tom, when we were at the star party, I
Yeah.
used the red dot. I made sure I used the compass because we set up during the day. But then when it got a little dark and I was going to polar align so I could do some live imaging, some live stacking, I just turned the red dot on. I made sure I was kind of close to Polaris, and then just put the ASI Air on polar align and just tweaked it from there.
right.
It
Mine
took
did,
what, 5 minutes. I was up and running.
right.
it
Mine
was
did
great.
meridian flip the other night and it was way off and it found its way back in about 2 minutes and was on the object again, you know?
Wow.
I mean, perfectly centered. It's just amazing.
Hmm.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
But I've been looking at the harmonic drives. I really have been.
They're
I just,
tempting.
I'm happy with it. I had looked at them. I know they were on
Right.
pre-production. I wasn't going to do that, but once they came out, and the reviews are all like 5 out of 5 stars. I mean,
right,
it's hard to hear anything negative about
Right.
it. I thought, do it, because when I go up to Cherry Springs or if I
Yeah.
go up to even Frank's or whatever, I want to have 2 setups. I want to have the C6 or C9 and a quarter, and then the wide field with the TV 85.
you know, I love my G11. I mean, it's running better than it ever has, you know, and I'm really kind of careful about taking it apart and moving it and, you know, and doing all that. And I have it running better than it ever has. But it is really kind of heavy. At the end of the night, I'm tired, you know, and camping, by the time I get home, I'm like half dead.
Yeah.
Just, you know, with the counterweights and this and that. And my concern is, you know, with my tube assembly is pretty heavy. And I'm just wondering, you know, on one side of the pier is changing to the other side of the pier without a counterweight, is that going to throw my polar alignment off?
Mm.
And I've been looking on the literature to see if other people have complained about that, but no one has. So that's my main concern, you know, the fact that my tube assembly is so heavy.
Yeah.
Not the fact that it can't handle it, because I'm sure that harmonic drive can, you know, from everything that I've read.
They sell a carbon
Yeah.
fiber tripod pier thing that matches it.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
don't
there's
know.
a riser. You almost need to buy the riser because the mount head is so small. Even with my TV 85, when I first bought it, I didn't get the riser with the tripod.
Yeah.
Those are big
And
cylinders.
like days later, I bought the riser because
Yeah, you don't have the clearance.
Mm.
yeah, I'm going to whack the camera into the tripod. That's not, especially with a strong motor like that, something's going to give.
Oh, yeah, really?
Right?
Just shear it right off.
I would think so. It's going to damage. It's going to
Oh,
damage
yeah, yeah.
stuff. So then that's the one scary part about it is like I really made sure my cables were like Velcroed down and stuff like that, because the first night, the first time I tried it, I was just swinging it from side to side just to make sure stuff was okay. And this one cable, my power cable to the ASI Air from the mount, wasn't tethered. It was just kind of laying there. And it actually went, when it moved back around, it went underneath the head of the mount.
Mm.
Like it would be the equivalent of the bottom of the RA housing. And that thing, I saw it was going to get tight fast. So, you know, I immediately just paused the mount and I put a little piece of Velcro, double-sided Velcro to just hold the cable up, and it's been fine ever since. But I mean, I think that would have tore that cable apart, that power cable, like nothing.
Yeah, you don't want to short that out.
That's the worst feeling.
It's getting something snagged.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm confident now. I mean, I sit in here, I'm good. Like when I was doing those objects for that astronomical league, I was sitting in here with Tracy and then just using the iPad with the, with the ASI Air app and just controlling the whole thing. And then at the end of the night, I park it, I send it to the home position. Then I go out and I throw the cover on and just turn the power off and then go to bed.
Just amazing.
So I'm confident enough now with the cables secured and all that I can go anywhere in the night sky and not have any concerns. It took me a while to get there, of experimenting, and I would always, before I slew to another target, I would go out and watch it, and it was always fine. And it's kind of like, well, if it's fine, it's going to be fine whether I'm there or whether I'm not there. So.
I spent $50 and I bought a little camera so that I have, when I slew far away or do a meridian flip, that's when I get really nervous.
Oh, so you have eyes on it, you mean?
Yeah, and it's always on. I never needed it. It's just for peace of mind.
Yeah.
But and that's the one thing I have. All my cables are tied in a. Especially in the wintertime, they're very stiff. It's a cord that looks like an old telephone cord.
Yeah, a
Everything
coil.
everything gets wrapped in there. And it's one big long cord. And so I have a $50 camera that has an IR light, but I have a Alexa hooked up to my observatory. And I tell Alexa to turn on the observatory light, and then I slew, and the light turns on and it slews, and I can see everything. There's never been a reason for me to go out there for any tangle. I don't know, it just makes me feel better. The only time I had a problem was when I almost closed the roof of the observatory onto the telescope. Yeah, it was 4 a.m. I'm walking out and I hit the button and I hear the roof. I turn around and oh my God, my heart dropped and I hit stop. And it was 1 millimeter, I swear to God, away from hitting the scope. And from then on, I learned, don't tighten down your clutches, leave your clutches just tight enough to move and not slip.
It's good advice.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, they would have been dented, and I'm like, do I need to have my clutches that tight?
No, generally not. Yeah.
But
I had an Ethernet line run down to my shed, and I have a repeater out there, like an Ethernet extender, but it was always a little marginal with the ASI Air, even with the plus, with the extended range, it was always
right.
a little too far away where the data rates just weren't high enough, and I would get impatient waiting for the images to load. So I wound up I had a really long Ethernet cable from from when I had done rewiring of my house.
Right.
So all I did was I just put an Ethernet switch down in the shed, and I literally set up now. I just walk out with the Ethernet cable, plug it into the ASI Air, and then it's anywhere I'm in the house, anywhere I'm in the yard, I'm either getting the extender or I'm getting my, the Wi-Fi in the house. So now it's like instantaneous. The images are just
Do you have electricity?
coming in fast. It's been wonderful.
You have electricity out there?
Yeah.
Because, I know you're not supposed to run high voltage wire with low voltage wire.
No, I have them in separate conduits, but
yeah, I have Cat 7 in the same conduit as the 120 volts. And it flies. There's no.
oh yeah. I mean, it's more of a safety issue if you ever get if the AC ever, something happens to that, the insulation cracks or something, you don't want to put that on your low voltage lines, but the chances of that happening are pretty slim.
I mean, yeah, I had already dug everything out, and when I first, it was technology just happened so fast. Like when I built my house, I wasn't even considering, Ethernet cable or putting another conduit in there.
I did it because I had a, this is before cell phones, when I had that shed delivered, 34 years ago. So it was before cell phones and all that stuff. And so I actually had a phone line. I put the low voltage conduit because I ran a phone line down there.
Landline.
Yeah, a landline. I never put a phone in the shed, but I thought when I was laying it down, it's easy enough to lay two, if you're digging a trench,
Yeah, really.
conduit instead of one. So what I did was I used the phone line as the fish when I pulled the Ethernet cable. I just tied it on the end of the phone
That's a good
line,
idea.
pulled the phone line, and the Ethernet came out the other end. And that I'm using. I love having that high speed. That's even what's nice with that 533 camera, that smaller camera, because the images load so fast because it's only like 18 meg per image rather than 52 or 53 meg. So when you're previewing them, they kind of load like that. It's really fast.
Yeah, I love it.
So anyway.
Up until yesterday, I was using a range extender with my scope outside and me and my tablet and everything indoors. And I put a mesh Wi-Fi 6E. I installed it yesterday, and I hooked everything up today. And the data transfer from the scope to my tablet now, instead of taking 10 or 15 seconds, is taking like about a second and a half.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
And I have range all the way out past my shop, which is a second building behind my house. And
Well, I'm gonna go hop on your Wi-Fi.
well, I measured it today, and it's like minus 70 decibels inside the shop from my house.
Oh wow.
So I'm really tickled with this new setup because, like I say, the telemetry is just quick, really quick now.
That's cool. That is cool.
In fact,
I
I'm
see
watching.
you.
I'm running right now, and I'm watching the. I'm doing a live stack on M51, and every frame's coming through in like about a second or so. I'm doing 2-minute subs on it. Only problem I have here is the skies. They're just
Yeah, well,
Oh yeah.
7+.
move up to Frank's. Buy Frank's place.
My
Yeah.
Frank's place. Yeah.
My brother's place is about a half hour away, and my mom and dad lived up there too, and now my nephew has their house, but there it's about Bortle 4.
That's nice.
Steve, you can move closer to Tom, can't you?
Excuse me?
You can move closer to Tom, can't you?
Oh, no, Tom can move closer to me.
We used to be closer. I used to be in Allentown
Oh, yeah.
and in Willingboro and places like that for a
Right.
while.
Yeah, I moved up here 30 years ago from Bethlehem, PA, where I worked at AT&T.
I see you have your project and right behind you, Steve.
The project?
Your project.
Oh,
You see it
yeah.
back here? That's a 3D printed scope.
The ribs are that's a skeleton for a 6-inch F6. And it's got threaded rods. Everything black has been catted up and printed in 3D. And I'm ready to do the mirror now.
Wow.
So I'm getting the garage set up to do the mirror, and I've been having some physical issues lately, so I haven't done anything in a couple of weeks, but that's where I'm at with it.
But
What
your
are you
goal is to make a
using to
grinding
print?
machine, right? To do the
Yes.
grinding, make a
So
grinding machine.
I used to do a little bit of combat robotics. So I still have a lot of controllers and motors left over from that. So I hurt my back again digging all those out of the basement and in the back of the
Oh,
garage.
man.
So
Yikes.
I'm going to take what I have and figure out how I can make a semi-automatic grinding machine so that I can do it with less physical effort.
What are you using to print? Like what material? ABS,
PLA,
PLA.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot of fun. I also use that to automate the focus and tuning on my solar scope. I don't know if you can see this, but there are a couple of brackets and some radio controlled servos on the solar scope, which I used that printer for. Thomas played with that before.
Yeah. So you can adjust the tuning, even the tuning of the solar scope from inside the house.
Yeah,
You
where
can
I'm
do
sitting
everything
now.
So not just focus and stuff.
Even the
but
tuning,
Tuning.
wow.
tuning. Well, that's what he did. He printed the 3D parts. So Steve was big into radio controlled planes and boats
Right.
and all kinds of stuff. So he has all these servos and hand controllers. So he
That's quite cool.
modified an
That's,
airplane controller.
Very cool.
that's
Very
very cool.
So if I can do it with wire and, motors and mechanics, I'm all for making it easier.
Yeah, yeah. That's part of the name of the game with this hobby is the tinker part. John, whether it's software or whether it's Steve, whether it's, widgets or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
no,
all
this is
part
the
of it.
fun, right.
Half the fun, right? Yeah.
So definitely in the future, I can do a little presentation on the homemade telescope if and when I ever get it working.
What are the specs going to be on it? What diameter, what F ratio are you going
It's
for?
6-inch f6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Something
Yeah.
simple. And so right now, my C6 SCT is f6.3, f7, close to that. And if I get this working, I'm then going to get the Hyperstar for the C6 and turn
Oh,
it to a f2. But that depends on me getting this working.
right. Yeah.
So you're going to do imaging with it then, right?
Excuse me?
Will you do imaging with that then?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's
this
awesome.
is designed to never see an eyepiece.
Oh, okay,
You'll
that's
never see an
wild.
eyepiece. Most of my telescopes have not seen an eyepiece.
Wow.
Way back in the beginning, way back a year and a half ago, when Tom was helping me out from 300 miles away with the phone. Yes, I was using eyepieces, and I've got an 8-inch Dob, and I learned a little bit about the sky with that, but I also learned from that I can't spend a lot of time bent over looking through an eyepiece. I
Yeah.
just can't do it physically. So that sent me in a different direction,
Yeah.
and I dragged Tom with me.
That's right. You took me with you. I was up at Steve's place. He says, what I want is the telescope. I can be here in my kitchen or in my den, and I just can control it from inside, and I can see it on the screen. And so he was heading that direction. I started thinking about that, and I was saying, it's not a bad idea, So I ended up putting in a permanent pier, and I run the wires in my sun porch where I'm at now, and it's warm in the winter. I'm sitting there. It's good. It's good in the summer. If you're doing the sun, it's great. You don't need to put the laptop in a box or something. It's all you control the light, and it's in an air conditioned room. It's not 90 degrees and the sun sitting there. It's just so comfortable. Even like all the planetary imaging, everything's just done in the sun porch.
That's nice.
So it's convenient. And Joe's about to complete a big project too. You're about to enter a mirror, Estelle fame.
Yeah, if I'm lucky.
You got back to that, Joe? You
I'm
got
sorry?
back to the mirror?
I'm sorry?
You got back to the mirror?
Yeah, we finished it, and
Oh,
Tom was
nice.
instrumental in that. In fact, I've been trying to, I'm scared to death to send, Tom graciously lent me his Ronchi screen, the 100 line pair Ronchi screen, and it's been sitting on my bureau, and I don't even go near it,
You don't have to worry. Don't worry.
because
about that.
I'm afraid, I'd like to send it back to you, but I'm afraid to put it in the mail,
It's a little piece of plastic, Joe. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Well, you know what? They're not that easy to find anymore,
yeah. Well,
Roman
yeah,
Bell's out of business. And in fact, I even made a backup out of fishing line. I went to the store and got fishing line and got an old slide.
Yeah,
Slide
Orion used to sell them, but I don't think they sell them anymore.
They don't.
Either, you know?
They don't. I went to Orion to try to get my own.
And
So I
they're
actually
really
made
nice
one
to
out of
use 'cause you see
monofilament
the
line.
edge so well. Yeah, you got a beautiful edge on that mirror.
Yeah, I made one out of monofilament. It doesn't work quite as well as yours, but I figured, gee, but anyway.
If you need a Focu tester, I have that one that I made years ago.
Yeah,
You
the
probably
mirror's
have one,
finished.
right?
I built an interferometer actually, and
Oh, okay. Never mind.
a bath interferomemeter, and did most of it on that. 'Cause
Okay, yeah.
I found I built a photo tester too, but I had a lot of difficulty with the shadows. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah. It is always tricky with those. Yeah, it's definitely a learned thing.
Yeah, I mean, years ago when I did other mirrors, I was actually better at it than I am now, and I just couldn't trust myself.
It's just keeping your head super still. It's harder now.
It is. It is hard.
Yeah, and it's a fairly fast, not real fast, but it's an F5, F4.9, F5 somewhere in there.
That's fast. That's hard. It makes it
So,
harder.
so the shadows are a little more difficult to interpret, and
Yeah.
and you don't have as much leeway. But the interferometer did well. The only issue with the interferometer is the edge, and I wasn't sure about the edge, so Tom came to the rescue there, and I was able to test the edge, and it seems to be okay. So
It looks real good. Yeah, it looks good.
so we'll see.
Have you star tested that thing, Joe?
I just got it illuminized. I just got
Oh.
it back. In fact, I was going to.
Who'd you go with?
But I just got it back, and I haven't had much of an opportunity to do much with it.
Yeah.
So
Did you send it to Jeff Decker? Down
Yeah.
at Majestic Cody's?
yeah, I did.
He does a real nice job.
Yeah, he did. He was very, very nice on the phone. I said, "Can I
He's a
drive
real
it
good
down
guy.
there?" And I said, "If I drove it down there, could you do it in a day or two?" He said, "Joe," he said, I really can't guarantee that I might be able to do it." I'm like, I sent it on Monday and I had it back on Friday. I couldn't believe
Yeah, I
it.
had really good success with him. With the 10-inch, he was still in New Jersey at that time. It was like an hour drive. So I just drove the 10-inch up there. And I
Right.
know Bob Madeira, he was on earlier. He's got a lot of his mirrors done up there because he
Right.
knew.
I used to
Bob
go
really
to
well.
Denton Vacuum. I used to send my
Yeah,
mirrors
I
to
know.
Denton Vacuum.
It's the same equipment.
Yeah, right.
It's the exact same equipment. Denham did a real good job.
Yeah,
And they were
Denton
cheap.
Denton
They
did a
were
real nice job.
inexpensive. They
Yeah.
were good. So when I heard that he had the machine, because I loved that coating lasted longer than any of my other coatings. Once I got
Right.
that, and the mirrors I had done with Jeff now, they're 6 to 8 years old, and they're
Yeah.
like brand new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had a number of them done by Denton. This is the first time I had it done in Virginia, but boy, I couldn't
He
say
gets them back
better
quick.
things about him. He was great.
Yeah, he's a very, very, very nice guy to talk with.
Very
He really
nice.
works with you. He's a good
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get a chance to the rest of your tube assembly's built, right? You got the tube and everything, or
No, I'm way behind. I bought a sonotube just to measure out everything to make sure I'm correct.
yeah.
And then I was just going to get a piece of irrigation tube, and
Yeah, that's what I
go
did.
with that.
From
So,
Hastings.
I'll
Get
be-
from
I'll be
Hastings out
giving
there.
Hastings- Yeah, I'll be giving Hastings a call.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to space it out, just to make sure I know what I have there, but we'll see.
Stelfane's coming, Joe.
I know. I know.
It always happens. You can
I
plan
know.
for years.
I know.
And then
I've
the
got
day
like a
you're up
million
there,
things going
you're
on,
putting
you know?
things together.
Yeah,
Pressure's on, pressure's on.
yeah, I know, I know.
You know,
Oh,
with
boy,
that,
every time I look at the mirror now, I'm like, oh my God, it's still
with
sitting there.
that, with that 10-inch scope, because it's meant for planetary, and we got a real small diagonal in it. I decided to go with a semicircle type of secondary holder versus a
Right.
spider.
Right,
And I got it extra wide, so it not thick, but wide, so it wouldn't move or anything. But I got this I'm doing this the last minute, and then next thing you know, I'm up to cellophane, and I'm aligning it the night before the competition,
yeah,
and I have the laser going down. And if I rotate if I rotate the telescope on the eastern side versus the western side, the laser pointing at the main mirror moves about an inch.
right.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was just so disgusted. All this big heavy mount up there and all. So one of the guys I was camping with in his car had some thin electrical wire. Because I was thinking, I'm like, how can I make this work? You know? And so what I did was I waited till it was getting twilight, not during the daytime, because the judge would just blow this off, because all the alignment is as critical as anything. If your mirror is perfect, but your alignment's not perfect, you're not going to win anything.
Right.
It's just that kind of thing. So I got the electrical wire. I just used masking tape on the side of the tube, ran the wire down, looped it around the stalk, the threaded rod that's holding the mirror, and then moved to the other side to make it kind of a spider, like a V with the semicircle. And that's what I use. And I'm worried about these guys moving the scope at night. They're putting a hand by top of the tube. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
bumped that wire, I'm dead. But I was okay. I survived it. But it was funny that
There's so much of cellophane is serendipity,
yeah, it really is crazy.
you have a mirror, but then you're driving to 300 miles and then up a mountain road, and then
Yeah.
it's just
So much can go wrong.
whatever happens, I figure happens.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, I've seen some incredible scenes up there.
Yeah,
I've seen people with blankets, big blankets out with parts of telescope. I mean, like hundreds of parts, and it's like a family putting it together, and it's
Yeah.
like hours to go, and it's like nothing's labeled, and it's like, how's this going to work?
right.
And if as time gets shorter, they start yelling at each other and stuff.
Right.
It gets insane sometimes. It's really funny, but it's fun. I mean, it's
Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about it.
no, you just do it for the fun. You can
Right.
get to meet an awful lot of people,
Right.
about different things. It's a great. I love Stealthing because
Yeah.
it's a place I learned
it's
so
been a
much
few
there.
years for me being up there, so
How many years?
it's been a few. It's been maybe
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I try to go every year. I only missed 1 year in the
I
last.
used to go every single year, and things have just kind of been a little crazy, weddings and things like that, and so I haven't had the opportunity in a couple of years. So
It's been a long time for me. I haven't been up there probably in, I would say 14, 15 years.
yeah,
I mean, a really long time.
but Ann and I have great memories of being up there years ago. Like even in the 70s, and
Oh yeah,
it is such a great place. Just a
yes.
great
It's so much. It's so neat because everybody there is like fanatical, which is great to be involved in that environment.
right.
We're all really involved, and actually, I got an awful lot of hints on my on using that ADC because I bought it, had never used it in August.
Right.
The planets are coming up, and I was trying to think of how do I get the horizon right, different things. I was talking to people, and that's where I got the idea to put like an artificial horizon on this Newtonian, because I have Newtonian. It's a German equatorial. Things the horizon isn't where the horizon is, So you got to look at it, and we come up with this very simple method to be able to get the true horizon based on putting a little mask on the front of the tube. It's just
Right.
but that was just a simple idea. Somebody was talking about it, and I didn't understand what he was saying actually when he was talking to me. I'm thinking, something here, man. There's something here with the front of the tube and a mask. I kept thinking about it. I said, oh, I know what I could do, but it was all because of those guys, and even just learning from different people who are successful at it, like photography of the planets, just how they're doing it. Everybody does it a little differently, but if you pick enough brains, you can put them all together and come up with something. You can cobble something together to get reasonable pictures.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm glad. I will see you up there. I'll be up there. I always camp up there.
Best of luck, Joe.
Oh, thank you. We'll see what happens.
Before we call it a night, guys, does anybody have any images they want to share
I've got a couple, real quick, if you guys want to, otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, took
Go ahead.
took one of the moon. So I thought, let me see.
After that, I gotta get going, guys. Had a long day today. And my eyes are barely staying open.
Just a couple shots. So I did this lunar mosaic the other night, and it was one of those nights where it was really clear, but it also, the seeing was pretty good. So I decided to try doing a mosaic. So it was about a 9-day-old moon. And so I used the 174, and I used it with a red filter.
Yeah, the red
on it.
filter is a good idea when you're looking doing the moons, because you're shooting in black and white, and that at least
Right.
that takes care of the atmosphere.
And the moon was so high in the sky that I
Yeah.
figured it was a good opportunity, you know. So
That's what
I
I've been
took-
thinking about doing. I actually have a couple plans for that, but I didn't get the scope out when it was there. I'm hoping maybe next cycle or the cycle after.
Right. I took 150 videos, and each of them were 2,000 frames. So, and they took like maybe 20 seconds a piece. And I really was really careful about, you know, overlap and stuff like that. So much so
Yeah.
that I probably could have done it in half the number of images, but I was so compulsive about that. And it created a lot of problems, but somehow I got through it. And I just want to mention I used Microsoft Image Composite Editor. I had an old panoramic software that I got online, and I was having a terrible time. And I downloaded this, and it works great. So if you guys are thinking of doing panoramas for other things and want a free software for doing that, this Microsoft Image Composite Editor, also called Microsoft Ice, works great. It is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. It was their project, and they abandoned it and just put it out there. But it works great. So I just want to show you a couple of this real quick.
Yeah, I haven't. The only thing I've done very little merging of images, and I just use Photoshop and try the auto image. But that's only if I have like 2 images I'm merging, not
Right.
150.
These are
This is
just
good to-
auto
good to know.
stacker Registacks.
Mhm.
I actually put them in Registacks before I put them in the panorama maker. Some people do it differently. You know, they'll get them out of auto stacker and then stack them and then do Registacks on that. I'm not sure whether that would give a better result or not. So maybe
I
that's
don't know. I mean, I like the way you did it. I mean, it's more work because you're doing 150 Registacks, versus
one of the things I didn't notice was when you take these shots and they come out of auto stacker, there's a couple of pixels like at the very edge that you wouldn't even notice otherwise
yes.
that are kind of black, and you never notice it except when you try to combine it with another image, and now you got it seen. So then I had to go back, and for most of them I had to crop the images,
They need to crop them.
so
What a
it turned
labor.
into a little bit of
That's a project.
Did Registack 150 times, cropped 150
Right, right.
Oh my
So
God.
It was
Versus
turning
just
into this
using the editor.
giant project, and I was starting to lose sleep, but this is the result anyway.
Wow.
So that's the shot from the 150, and I'm just going to show you a couple close-ups. It's not perfect, but
That's great. The
I can
Terminator's
imagine you can zoom in quite a bit.
big.
and
I like
I rotated, of course. This is the eastern limb that I just rotated counterclockwise. So I just try to do that to get it on.
I like that. I like the area almost in dead center there. It's a little left of center. That the little with the end of that range where the Maria is, and it goes back to really neat
it's kind
shadows.
of a pretty area,
Yeah, really nice shadowing there.
This is Proclus. This is the area between Mare Crisium and Fecunditatis. Right area. That's that little ray.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
What was your focal length again, Joe?
I shot these at f20 at 11-inch f10, so
220 inches.
I was pretty high up there.
You were up there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow. It's impressive.
That is.
And you can zoom in,
Yeah, that's the thing. You can. That's just
you know,
like
this is-
really zoom in.
yeah, this is like
all individual pictures. You got
Yeah.
150.
this is
individual
Mare
pictures.
Frigoris here, and that crater right there. I don't know if you can see it. That's Atlas and Plato, and it's Hercules just out of the frame.
Wow.
And this is Mare Imbrium, of course, and the Apennines, and
That's
down
beautiful
here is
shape.
Hadley
Look
Rill.
at that detail in there.
That's really cool.
Plato. This is Pallas Pritchardinus.
It's nice grayscale too. Nice.
That's, I mean, really
yeah.
nice grayscale.
The dynamic
Really.
range is really impressive.
Yeah, beautiful range.
The Terminator is
Yeah,
really
just on
switched
the
out.
Terminator here. Yeah.
I
Thank
feel
you.
like when I shoot it, it's like real sharp. It's either all dark or all white. But you get a nice gradient.
You know, the scene was really good that night. This is just an inset on the Mare Imbrium
Yeah.
and the Apennines.
That is a great area. That whole area, that whole mountain range.
Yeah, a Hadley Rill there.
Yeah.
Apollo 15 landing site. It's just the Southern Highlands.
Wow.
Lots of craters.
Just Tycho. This is
It's the straight wall.
Yeah, the
yeah,
straight wall.
straight
Look at
wall.
that.
And the last one, I just wanted to show you this. This is kind of an interesting thing. And this is this crater here is called Davy, and it's about 15 kilometers in diameter. And this little crater chain here is called Katina Davy, and the largest little craters here are about 2 kilometers in diameter. So this is really, really enlarged a lot.
Yeah, I'll say.
But the thing about this, like if you read Ruppels, they'll say, what they say about this is like, it's a typical crater chain, you know? But other people say, there's really nothing typical about a crater chain, because when you look at these with lunar spacecraft, you know, reconnaissance spacecraft, you don't see any ejecta from this on the rest of the Maria. So some people think that this really is a comet strike, like
where it broke up a little
like
bit.
Shoemaker Lady, you know?
Yeah, so it's a series of fragments that
And
came
then
in.
this other fellow has come out recently and says they're not impacts at all. They're actually electrostatic discharges. And he finds places on Earth where lightning has struck and formed these same kind of craters, like in the desert. So it's kind of a controversial subject now, you know, about these things. And I found when I was putting this together, like I spent hours on it. So I kind of looked real close at a lot. There's a lot of these things here, you know, and you wonder what's close enough that would cause an electrostatic discharge. And then I was remembering back that early in the moon's history, the Earth was fairly close. So I wonder whether the Earth was this, you know, was the source of the discharge. And, you know, I don't know. And I can't find that much literature on that, but that was kind of, I thought that was kind of interesting, the whole thing, you know. I
Maybe
think
it
that's
was
a
a
little
mass
sad.
coronal
But
discharge.
anyway,
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
that's
that was
okay.
really nice. That was good, Joe.
Yeah.
oh, thanks. Yeah, of course. Of
Joe,
course.
Joe, how many total images?
Oh, I took 150, but don't be like me. You know, you know, I went online and I saw other people do this, you know, and I'm trying to get out of here. I'm sorry.
When I was thinking like 20, not 150.
Well, you know, the problem is when you take them, you also have to make sure that, you know,
Everything
you're
will
providing
collapse.
spacing for that, you know,
Yeah.
so you have to take,
It grows out of control.
yeah, there's, I'm sure there's a mathematical formula for all this, you know, but you know, you're going down a rabbit hole, you know, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh my God, why didn't I do this at F10 or why didn't I do this with this?
Right.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about this.
I'm thinking, what was I thinking, you know?
F20, I can live with that. With that,
Right.
maybe
Right.
F12.
Yeah, I was really I was really thinking, what was I thinking? That was just, anyway.
That's impressive.
So you did that. So that probably took you, it was 30 seconds an image times,
It took about 3 hours, I think.
yeah, I was gonna say, with the, it's
It
moving
took
the
about
camera,
3
but
hours, but
yeah.
but again, I was indoors. It really wasn't a big deal, you know.
Just keeping track of what you photographed though is an interesting
Exactly.
thing.
Well,
How did you, how did you manage
I
that?
did it in rows. I went down one row and then up the next and down the next and up the next. And I just
Did you
made
make a
sure
grid
that-
or anything? Did you have like a picture of the moon with a grid on it? You just
I
followed the
did,
pattern?
and then I had all these images. So what I did was I downloaded a map of the moon, and when I would get an image, I would put like the number, like I numbered the images from 1 to 150, and I would put them on the map, like
Yeah,
where 1
yeah.
is and where 2 is.
You
and where
have to
3
do
is.
that or else you'd be off. Phew.
So then what I did was when I put it together, I created sub-assemblies, and then like of maybe 20, and then I would create sub-assemblies of everything that was in that area, because sometimes
Yeah.
like you would go to 20 or 30, and then so number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would be with 30, 29, 28, 27, 26. So I had to put it on a map of the moon so I could line them all up, you know what I mean?
And all that stitching together was with that Microsoft image
Yeah, Microsoft
composite editor.
image composite editor. Yeah, that is a
Very, very
wonderful
nice.
program.
You can't
And
even.
That's
because
good
I
to know, man.
struggled for hours with the one I had, and this one worked great. It didn't ask you a million questions. It didn't want to know the focal length, and it really worked great. It
You
really
can't
worked
see
great.
where they were stitched together. Everything is smooth. It's perfect.
And I had, I had to go into Photoshop. There were a couple seams that still showed up, and I had to use the healing tool and some other tools to kind of smooth them over a little bit. But I try to keep that to a minimum, So that was that.
Yeah. Well, it's very good. Very nice project.
Thanks.
And you invented the quad tree method of stacking images. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You just reinvented the algorithm.
Right. But it really technically is not that difficult, but I think it would be good like to have just a map if you're shooting a lot of them.
Right. That's what I mean. That's what I was thinking. I'd make a map and then I have them all labeled. And as I took the image, I would call it the image. I'd
Yeah.
just label 1 through whatever. And then
Because when you're looking at the thumbnails, some of them, like especially towards the middle of the moon, you really don't know where you are,
yeah,
Yeah.
I would
yeah.
think.
So
Have you tried that ASI Air feature for doing mosaics? I've never played.
No, I saw it, Gary, and I didn't use it. I just try to do it this way. I don't.
Yeah, I would think that would work better with maybe deep sky, like star stuff, where it could align them. Like the moon, I'm not sure what it would use to register, because it seems like it's more inherently used to registering on star
Right.
fields, like with the plate solving and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. One
Yeah,
thing
I
that
have to play with it at some point. Joe, have you or would you consider posting that high res on the forum or on the thing? I would love to like zoom in on that.
oh, sure. The problem is that I can only.
Is it too big?
I'm not
What is the
sure
size
how.
of that?
Yeah,
What is the end size on that, Joe, of that
8
file?
9 terabytes.
it was. Gee, I'm not even sure.
I think we can do up to 300 meg or something on that, on the site, on the DVAA, because when we did Agapios's MOV, his AVI file, that was
Right.
way up there.
Should I put it under documents? You think?
Yeah, let me look.
This was about 6,000 by, I don't know, 6,000 pixels
Oh, that's
in.
Oh, it
length.
should be easy peasy.
not that
Yeah.
big.
Anything under 100 megs is real easy to move
You
up
can
there.
put that on the forum.
Yeah, the
Joe.
documents folder is 300 megabytes.
Okay.
So that's pretty big.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be cool to look at that like up close.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was fun to do. But.
Cool.
All right,
Excellent.
gentlemen, we're like
Okay.
approaching 9:30 here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm really tired tonight.
No, that's fine. No, I'm gonna
Yeah.
actually head out and try that 4214, John.
Yeah, I'd love to see
So
what you pull out.
I'll do an hour's worth of that, or 4228. I'll do an hour or more of that.
Yeah, send a message to the group. I'd love to look at that. There's a lot going on in there that I couldn't pull out. So
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
What's that, Bill?
The club president mentioned this, the club's got this IO thing where everybody communicates as to.
IO
what-
groups.
IO
Or,
group.
or, or groups IO, groups IO.
Yeah, okay, I tried getting into that and I was told I had to install this app called Jason in order to be able to even get into it or read it or whatever. And I went through all of that rigmarole and I still can't get into it. And I'm wondering what's up with it because
Hmm.
I have
I don't
no
know
access.
about that. I thought it was just you just got
No,
it through
click
the
the
browser.
link on the,
Okay, John just sent the
Thanks,
link at the
John.
bottom there.
click
Yeah,
the link there,
And
chat.
at the bottom in the chats there,
Yeah.
Bill, there's they just John just posted the link. And I think I just said, that I wanted to join, and then Bart is the janitor of that, and he just, after a day or so, he just says, okay, when he sees your prompt and just puts you in.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I didn't download any software.
I had to
Yeah,
make a username and
Yeah,
password.
I
Yeah,
had
you
these
didn't
windows.
passwords.
Yeah, I
I
think you just joined the group.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had these
try-
windows coming up telling me I had to install this stuff
Yeah.
first and
No.
be able to get into
Yeah.
it.
Bill,
Yeah, use
click
that
the
link there, Bill. You see the link that John sent? If you go to chats in Zoom here, and in there, John posted the link.
Okay. All right. Well,
DBA
I'll see what I can do.
groups.io.
And
Yeah, you
just
don't
create a
have to
username and
download anything.
password. You don't download stuff. You just goes. It just works.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
All right. Well, I kind of thought it was this, kind of a strange roundabout way of getting into something that's just basically a
No.
chat forum.
Yeah, it's like Yahoo Groups. It used to be Yahoo Groups. Now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
this.
cut and paste that and you're good to go.
Yeah,
I
but it's
set it
good to
up.
be on that because a lot of things are going on. All the people when
Yeah.
they go observing or
I have
share
it just
images.
email me every morning, so I don't
Yeah.
even have to log in.
Yeah, because like if I go to one of the sites or whatever, I want to see if anybody else is going to be there.
Well,
Sure.
this
Yeah.
is where you
Yeah,
do it.
that's where you would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, cut and paste this and your problem solved.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Take
All
care,
right,
guys.